that's participating, and we have 58 people participating in this today. We really are thrilled to have that number. So we're going to have time for you to ask questions for each of these candidates. So start thinking about those questions now before we get through this last question. So Devin, I'm going to start out with you on this. Though a large percentage of the population have quality of life issues, many of the voters in our district don't necessarily seem to be particularly concerned about those issues. What will you do to address quality of life issues within the 9th Congressional District?
Well, as mentioned before, healthcare and an upgraded infrastructure would be a great start. Additionally, setting a federal minimum wage of $15 an hour and ensuring that a living wage is set locally in accordance with that area's cost of living index. Georgia's cost of living is almost 7% or 7 points lower than the national average. Yet many of our citizens, they struggle to make ends meet, even with 2 or 3 jobs. We must start paying our hardworking, working class citizens a wage that allows them to pay their bills on time, build good credit histories, put food on the table, and until universal health care is passed, afford these criminally high health insurance premiums and copays. That, without a doubt, would increase our overall quality of life.
Okay. Okay, Brooke, that same question. Would you like for me to read it again, or do you have it?
Say it one more time.
Would you like for me to read that question for you again?
Yes.
Though a large percentage of the population have quality of life issues, many of the voters in our district don't necessarily seem concerned. What will you do to address quality of life issues within the 9th Congressional District?
Well, I'm living the quality of life issue right now. Like I said, I'm a single mother, woman of an older age now, looking for the quality of living with health care, affordable health care, affordable housing, education, if I want to get further in education, and just like I said, social issues. So I would address those completely by my own personal journey here, and especially in the 9th District, I see a lot of that happening. So I would definitely take that and try to help write bills so that people like myself can get a better quality of life.
Okay. Okay, Dan Wilson, that same question to you. Quality of life issues in the 9th District. Although some folks don't seem to be concerned, what will you do to address any quality of life issues?
Okay, so the question has 2 parts, and I want to back into it this way. There was a professor of economics, Occam, I believe it was his name, who came up with something called the misery index. I would like to update that. I think that's a little bit wooden. It looked at chronic unemployment in terms of that in a ratio with the inflation rate. I think the quality of life in the 9th District is something that ought to be a patriotic challenge for the citizens of this district. I would be in favor of coming up with a report card. It would be a quality of life report card based on a metrics of factors. And every year we would look at that report card and we would decide whether or not the district was making progress or not. We've never had that, at least in my 21 years being associated with the district. We've never had anything like that. So we know that in terms of cost of living issues for this district, healthcare, housing, childcare, and college are all out of reach for too many of the citizens. But if we have a report card, we can talk about the progress that's being made. And the last part of that piece is I would invite the citizens and the voters of the 9th District every year to weigh in on that report card, to give their feedback, their advice, and their critique of how we're doing as a district and whether or not we're making progress.
Okay. Well, that concludes all of our planned questions, but I'm sure that won't end the event, because I'm guessing we'll have some folks out there that would like to ask these candidates questions specifically. And I would ask that you try to ask the same question to all three candidates to make sure we have equal time. Okay, do we have anybody that has a question? Raise your hand or let me know. I see iPhone Willis. iPhone Willis is identified. Do you have a question?
No,
Okay.
I don't know what I've done.
Okay, anybody else have a question for these candidates? Well,
Can you hear? You go.
Hello,
who is that?
can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Okay. One of the fundamental problems of,
What is your name, please?
pardon me, I'm Wally Shows, SHOWS, and we're in the Blairsville, the mountains.
Okay.
One of the problems that I hear from candidates is they begin to try to discuss economics and seem to know nothing whatsoever about it. The first thing to talk about is, how did we get to where we are now? What are the economic decisions that were taken that turned our economy into a financial and banking economy and away from a manufacturing economy, and have resulted in the aggregation of wealth to a very narrow band of people? 1% or so control 80% of the wealth, and the workers haven't had an increase in their wages in 40 years. First of all, you need to understand that, okay? You need to understand it is the historic, both Democrat and Republican decisions that were made by Congress over a period of 30 years that created the tax distortions that have resulted in this economy. And
Well, do you have a question for the candidates?
yeah, the question is, understand what the real economic issues are first, and then explore changes in decisions that could be made by Congress to improve our situation. But everyone I hear talking about this does not understand economics, basically.
Okay, Brooke, would you like to comment on that?
Whether do I understand economics? Yes, I do. I understand that you're asking why banking and it has taken over rather than manufacturing. Is that his question?
I think so.
1% that control the wealth of the United States are in the financial services industry, okay? And they control 80% of the GDP of the United States. How did we get here? That would be the first question for you to go study and understand.
Okay, that's the question. How did we get here, Brooke?
How did we
How
get?
did we get in the current situation we're in?
Well, we farm out our manufacturing to other countries for a lower price. It's kind of funny. We have a president that says "Make America Great Again," but most of our products are produced in other countries. So how is that great? Now, if we were more in banking, that's how it's been with, for many, many years. So if you want to get back to manufacturing or doing business in this country, you've got to think about, bringing back jobs to this country, which this president of all people said, I'm going to do that, and did not. So, if you're asking about the economy and our GDP, it's based on manufacturing, which is no longer existence in this country because everything is farmed out.
Why did that happen?
Okay, all right. Let's before we do that, let's give equal time to Devin and to Dan.
Yes.
Devin?
All right, well, I am not a historian, but to my knowledge, if you think back, every time there is a financial crisis, there's an opportunity to shift policies. Every time there is a financial crisis, normally whoever is in charge at the time, whether it be the president, whether it be that party, there is a backlash that happens, which causes the other party to get into power during the next voting cycle, which allows them with that power to shift to shift policies. So this happened during the from the Roaring '20s to the Great Depression. As far as why manufacturing shifted from the U.S. to other places, namely, the first place that someone would think of is China. Most everything that you buy is from China, from your little trinkets to some of your larger computers. And part of that reason is because of the cost to make those items and because of the cost to pay people to make those items. And just like farming in this country, it is a lot cheaper to pay foreign nationals to farm our crops than it is to pay United States citizens.
Okay.
So in farming, in electronics, all of those things have been farmed out to cheaper labor and cheaper manufacturing.
Okay, well, thank you, Devin. Dan, would you like to comment on that? And I have another question what somebody in the audience would like to ask you. But go ahead and comment on that one.
Sure. I wonder if I could just get a one-word response from Mr. Shows. Have you read the book, America, What Went Wrong?
The book I want to suggest you all read.
Well, the reason I'm asking you about that.
Okay? This is very important. The book I want you to read is Applebaum's The Economist's Hour. That's the current book that explains the answers to what I'm asking. And
okay, so I only have 2 minutes to answer this question. I'm not trying to be rude, but that's kind of the problem with the format here. So yeah. I want to say some things very quickly. First of all, I covet your expertise, and I want to know everything you can tell me about this topic when the time comes. That's one of the ways in which government gets better, when we listen to people who have expertise and knowledge. The second thing I would say is I'm not an economist. But the third thing I would say is there was a Pulitzer Prize winning work that was published by the Philadelphia Inquirer some 30 years ago, an academic study on the reorganization of the tax structure in this country.
That's precisely.
And we're still suffering to this day from what happened. So there's a lot we could talk about, but that's my short answer.
Okay, can we move on to the next question because we are getting short on time. I have a question here. This is from Patricia Sullivan. How will you, as a 9th District representative, attract industry to our economy as economic development zone? How will you bring in more industry to this area? And Dan, I'm going to start off with you on that one. What would you do for economic development in the 9th District?
Okay, so one of the things that we're lacking in this district is job training. We have to come up with some ways in which people can work in apprentice positions and gain the necessary skills so that they can presumably climb up the economic ladder. The other thing that's happening, of course, is that we have a brain drain in our district, and I think everybody here knows why that's happening. But if we can improve the economic conditions in the district, including what we're doing with minimum wage and just living wage, if you are a family with 3 or more children in this district, half of you are struggling just to make a living wage. If we can change that, then we have a ripple effect in terms of being able to attract people with higher education. We don't lose our college students to other parts of the country. So all that's part of a piece that has to work together.
Okay, and the same for Devin, economic development of the 9th District.
I would think that, with that question, I guess some might immediately think to large businesses coming in, hiring, which I guess in some cases would be great. However, I would think that it would be best to focus on entrepreneurship, on our small businesses who are the backbone of most local areas. So I think that small businesses are crucial to the health and vibrance of the economy. And I think that's one place that definitely needs to be looked at.
Okay, thank you. And Brooke, how would you promote economic development in the 9th District?
Okay, so being here in the 9th District, I realized that we have a natural resource living in the North Georgia mountains, and that is our agriculture. I believe that there's a lot of rich agriculture that we are not producing. A lot of in-state growth, farm to the table is something I'm very big with, natural foods, and being able to produce the things that we can produce, and offering more manufacturing and trading within our state as well as to other states, our natural resources that we have. You know, the North Georgia mountains are very beautiful, and we have ways of producing wind and solar where other states don't have that. You know, this is second in the country to produce solar as far as that's concerned. And we're not using our natural resources. And so economically, we can build an economy just based on what's going on in the 9th District. And that's what I want to do for everybody.
Okay, I've had a couple of questions here about people would like to see your bios and visit your websites. Why don't you each tell the folks on the call how they can get to that, and we'll try to get that posted on this as well, on the recording. So Dan, how can people get to your website and find your bio and other information about your campaign?
So on Facebook, it's at Dan Wilson for Congress. My website is danwilsonforcongress.com. If you can remember Twitter, it's at Congress_Dan. Also Instagram, Dan Wilson for Congress.
Okay, how about Devin, yours?
Okay, so for every social media platform, it will be at Devin Pandy for Congress. The 4 is spelled out, F-O-R. Spell my name, D-E-V-I-N-P-A-N-D-Y, Devin Pandy for Congress. And if you'd like to go to my website, it is devinpandyforcongress.com.
Okay, and Brooke.
So I haven't gotten it all together yet because I had a setback. But I'm going to have a website that's going to be Brook for America 2020. And again, I have my website will be directed to my social media platforms as well.
Okay, very good. Now, this next question is from our good friend Dee over in Clayton. She says, thanks for your willingness to serve. Why are you our best representative to take on the big dollar GOP candidate that will be chosen? You know, there's like 9 of them running in a primary, and they'll obviously end up in a runoff. But, you know, so how are you going to take on a big dollar candidate? And I'd like to add to that, you know, how are you doing raising money? And we'll start with Devin.
All right. So as far as the raising money piece, we are definitely a grassroots campaign. We have pledged not to accept any corporate PAC money. And so with that, so far, the donations have been coming in not as well as I would like to see, but better than I was expecting, to be honest. So I'm very, very glad to see the support for my campaign that I have seen. We are definitely going to need more if we are going to be able to run against, to be formidable against whoever the GOP candidate is, because we already know that most of them that are running are independently wealthy, plus they will have the back of their corporate PACs.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, what was the original question?
How will you end up taking on a big money GOP candidate?
Gotcha. Well, that's a good question that I don't think anyone would be able to 100% answer. What I can say is, to the best of my ability and with the backing of everyone on this call and the ninth chair, all of the county chairs getting together, whether it's me or it's Dan or it's Ms. Siskin, we are going to need to come together. I have pledged to help whoever the candidate is. Whoever is elected in the primary, I will be supporting that person, because this is not about Devin Pandy for Congress. This is about the 9th district and about getting representation in Washington and about keeping the House blue.
Okay. Okay, Dan, you got that same question. How are you going to take on a big GOP candidate, and how are you doing at raising the money? Is Dan Wilson still with us? Wait a minute. Let me unmute you. Dan? Well,
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. You were muted.
Okay. So we know this, that whoever comes out of the primary is going to have the advantage of having the full support of the Democratic Party. While we're contested, there's some limitations on fundraising, some limitations on our campaigning. One of the reasons I decided to run is because I worked for Josh McCall's campaign in the last congressional race. And I saw something as I was looking at the data that intrigued me. Easily 70%. Now, rack your brain around this. 70% of the people who are regular voters in the 9th district claim to be part of a faith community. So if we write off the faith community, there's no way we ever get beyond 20% of the vote as a Democratic Party. So when I was deciding to run, I started calling other ministers. I didn't know these ministers. These were cold calls across the 9th district. I contacted approximately 40 different ministers of different denominations, and I asked them if they would be supportive of a candidate who was willing to run a different kind of campaign in which we got away from the name calling, the blame placing, and the scapegoating. And every one of them said yes, they were willing to do that. So how do I face up against the big guns if I'm lucky enough to win the primary?
Yeah.
How do I face up to the Republicans? I face up to them because I'm going to be able to appeal to the faith community in a way that we've not been able to do before. And as I said, that is easily 70% of the voting block in the 9th district.
Okay. Well, thank you. Okay, Brooke, you're up.
So you're asking me how I would compete against a GOP candidate.
Well-funded GOP candidate, and how are you doing raising money?
Okay, I haven't raised money yet. However, in my last campaign when I ran for a House seat against a 20-year incumbent, I did not raise nearly the much that I could to his 4 times amount that he had. However, what I did is I gave people faith, and like our Reverend here just said, to people who believe in it. I'm going to need all the help I can get, and I hope that everyone comes up behind me. But I think we need somebody who's been there at the grassroots level, who's knocked on doors, who's talked to people in all different areas of this state, who's talked to people that need help, who don't know who their candidate is or who represents them, and just reaches out and touches them in ways that they've never been, have experienced before. So I'm going to need all the help I can get. And once this primary is over, I'm going to take this all the way to the top to Washington, and I'm going to represent every single person in the district, no matter what socioeconomic they come from, no matter what religion they come from. I want to bring everyone together, and that's what I'm going to do. And if it takes a little amount of money to get to the long haul to reach that top of that mountain, that's what I'm going to do. And I hope everybody comes behind me and does that.
All right, well, thank you, Brooke. All right, one question. This might be our last one. Would you talk with us just a minute about your position on climate change, and then we'll go to the other 2 candidates and the importance to the 9th district of climate change?
Climate change is imperative. What we're dealing with right now and what we're dealing with in the coming years, we need to take care of our earth. We need to take care of our solar system. We need to take care of everything. So yes, I'm totally about climate change. We need to look at our fossil fuels, and we need to look at ways on, like I said before, our natural resources. So If we don't, we won't have a planet, we won't have a civilization, and what we're dealing with right now, we won't have a community. So let's all come together and work on that.
Okay, Devin, talk with us a little bit about climate change and the impact on the 9th District, and specifically maybe some things that you might be doing if you're elected.
Well, I want to say that climate change is real. And for those climate change deniers, right now is a perfect example of how just 2 months of less fossil fuel usage does. We can actually see the LA skyline right now, and that is major. When's the last time we were able to do that 2 or 3 consecutive days, let alone, forever? It is imperative that we tackle climate change, that we believe in the science, and that we do what's necessary to decrease our fossil fuel usage. As far as the 9th goes, I believe that as many issues as the 9th has that is central to the 9th, this is one that is not. And so the natural wonders that are located in the 9th, you can find in other places in the world, and everywhere in the world it will be affected the same. The dirtying of the waters, of the streams, of the rivers, the wildfires because of the heat, and those wildfires take a toll on the habitats, the animals. So I think that with all of the things that we are going to be doing specifically for the 9th, climate change is one that we definitely have to have a worldview about.
All right, well, thank you, Devin. All right, Dan, you get to the last comment on climate change.
I would just be curious if everybody would nod your head up and down when I ask this question. Devin has spoken already about what's happened over the last 2 months with the reduction of burning fossil fuel. Have you all been looking at the reports on that? If just shake your head. I mean, some of the things that we're seeing are amazing. We've got dolphins now swimming in the canals in Venice, Italy. We've got cities in India where they can now see the Himalayan mountain range, sometimes 400 and 500 miles away because of the clarity of visibility. So we know that humankind is having an impact on the earth, and that impact can be reversed. This is why I support the Green New Deal. Thank you.
Okay. Why don't we just each of you take a minute now. We're approaching the 6:30 hour. We each take a minute and wrap up, and we'll start with Devin. All
right. Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you, June. Thank you, everyone, for putting this together. These are trying times, and we are times that most of us have never lived through before, and hopefully we'll never have to live through again. And we are winging it, trying to figure out how to make things work. And as human beings, it is our nature to fight change. And it is really good to see that everyone is doing their best to change with the times. My name is Devin Pandy. You can check me out at devinpandy4congress.com. I want to represent you. I have I had a long career in the military, representing and fighting for this country and for the Constitution. I really want to continue to do that. I know that I can do a great job, and I am hoping that you all will feel the same.
Thank you. Okay, Brooke, a minute or less.
June and Jim here. Kind of funny. I've known Jim, like I said, we talked even years ago, and I was on this journey back in 2008, and I think I've come full circle. I'm running to represent the 9th District, but I'm also running to represent a person in America who's struggling right now as I speak. And I want to see us all come together. What better time than now, when we're all trying to struggle for life itself, when we're worried about going out into our homes and going out into the workplace and worrying if we're going to live or die. We all need to come together right now in this world and in this country And I hope I can represent the people of the 9th District and all of their concerns and all of the issues that they have, like I've heard tonight. So please come behind me. I'm going to have a website, Brook for America 2020. And I want everyone to come together and let's try to save the world, save this country, come together and fight for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Okay, Dan, you're up now. I just unmuted you.
Okay, I think I'm fine. So Jim, I want to thank you for moderating. That's not an easy job. And June, I want to thank you for setting this up. This is a difficult way to campaign, but you're pulling this off marvelously. And I think I could probably speak for Brooke and Devin and say that we appreciate so much this opportunity. And I want to thank the other 2 candidates because this is not easy. This is a difficult thing to do. Let me just say this, and I hope you take it the right way. I'm not an expert on a lot of things. What I have is a background in learning how to listen and put together coalitions of people who can work together. So I run without a great deal of pride. I'm not running out of a sense of ego, but I'm running because I really think we're in trouble. Our democracy is in trouble, and this is the only way I can think of to try to make a difference. So if I'm elected, the thing that I will do is I will have town hall meetings. We haven't had those in decades in the 9th District. I'll have opportunities where people in the district can share their ideas, and I hope to learn from that. So thank you, everybody. It's been an honor to be with you tonight. Thank you.
And thank you very much. And thanks to all the candidates. There were a number of questions that I had in the chat group that I wasn't able to get to. I'd encourage each of you, if you weren't able to get to your question, reach out to the candidates. You have their websites, you have their contact information in the chat room. There's websites, there's email addresses. Reach out to the candidates, ask those questions, and I'm sure they'll each get back to you. Thanks to all 3 candidates for being a part of this. Thanks to everybody for participating. In June, would you like to say anything? Let me make sure I don't have you muted here. Would you like to close this out for us? There you go.
Yes, Jim, thank you so much. Candidates, thank you so much. We are in a win-win, and yes, we will all pull behind the nominee. One last thing, I want to thank the candidate recruitment and support team, Bill Stuke and Dee Daly. Also, Miranda Compton helped get this started, and thank you all very much. Jim, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And you know, the more we do this, the better we'll get. Y'all be safe out there, and please remember to wash your hands.
Thank you.
Dan, it's good to see you.